It's time for the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com.
What's up? Welcome in another edition of the North Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com. District 1 and 2 dialogue week in, week out. Brandon Baney, as always, joined by Ryan Scaggs, our North Idaho resident. Scaggs, what's up?
Oh, not much. Just enjoying the dog days of winter and planning a 7-year-old birthday party. So, yeah.
Always a good time. 7 is an exciting one. Your son's turning 7 this weekend. What do you got lined up?
Well, he turned 7 last weekend, but the whole process between coming out of Christmas break and not getting to invite friends from school kind of caused an issue. So we had to get those classmates invited. So now we're holding it this weekend.
Okay, now I know the planning is top secret under wraps. I don't want your son. I know he's an avid listener of this Prepcast. He's probably going to be listening to hear what the party's going to be like.
Yeah, him and his first grade classroom at Skyview Elementary are definitely listening, or Skyway Elementary are listening right now. So yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us what's on tap for this birthday bash?
Dinosaurs, man.
Cool.
It's a dino party. So yeah.
Does your son have a favorite dino?
He's got a couple that he likes. I think he's a fan of the T-Rex and the Velociraptor. But he also likes the Parasaurolophus as well. That was like one of his favorite dinosaurs since he was little, and he could pronounce it at like 2, and it was adorable, but also like kind of weird. It's like you had trouble saying the word hamburger, but he could say Parasaurolophus.
Hey, what are you gonna do, right?
Kids are rad, man.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment. That's gonna be our podcast title: Hamburgers and Paris. I don't even know how to spell that.
I don't either. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know. You have to look that one up.
What?
Parasaurolophus. Apparently, it's a dinosaur. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. You learn something new every time you tune into the North Idaho Prepcast. You never know what we're going to
Dinosaurs and high school sports. There you go.
That's right. Maybe
We're the resident dino expert this summer.
Right. Okay. Before we dive into what we're going to talk about today, a couple of housekeeping things. Of course, you can watch this podcast each week on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. We're having some problems with Facebook. They're not playing nice with us, so I'm having difficulties posting videos to our Facebook page currently. So if you want to see the podcast, you want to see that cool Under Armour hat Ryan Scaggs is wearing, you want to see us sip on our coffee as we talk.
Yeah, so we could do like dog talk and tell dad jokes and wait for reactions from one another.
If you want to see this video Prepcast, you got to head over to the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel. For now, that is the only vessel that we have. I will say, I would really like it if you went to our YouTube channel and watched this Prepcast and even hit the subscribe button. Be a subscriber to the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel. It takes 2 seconds. It doesn't cost you anything. It's the little bell icon. You just click that and boom, subscribed. It's go ahead.
Awesome content, all like from not just me and you, but from you and everybody else, including Sean Kane, who are having like a kerfuffle. Not necessarily. I mean, we're good. Yeah, with Twitter beef that we want an around the horn style Prepcast one of these days, and you're gonna have to moderate it.
He was telling me about that. I did a game with Sean Kane last night. Actually, we did a broadcast together, and he was telling me about that. So. Yes, that's definitely in the hopper. But it's the start of a new year, right? And so no better time to set goals and resolutions. Everybody should do this, not just personal goals, but professional goals. Everybody should have goals that they want to attain professionally. A professional goal of mine at IdahoSports.com is to get our YouTube channel to 1,000 subscribers. That's kind of the benchmark these days for a YouTube channel. We're like just over 600 right now. So we're like 2/3 of the way there. We need your help to get us across the finish line, to get us to 1,000. So if you go to the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and subscribe, that would help me achieve one of my goals. And as a selfish person, that's what I want. So do it. No, I'm kidding, of course. But it would be a really big help if you did that. So at least consider it, please. You can get the audio version of this podcast as well at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts. All right. So with all that housekeeping stuff out of the way, let's get into it. What a weekend of wrestling. Holy smokes. We had the Rollie Lane Invite at the Idaho Center this past weekend, and we had a couple of, not unexpected, a couple of North Idaho standouts, especially on the girls' side, Ryan.
Yeah, and that was the thing. It was like Alyssa Randalls showed up. We knew that, what she is and what she's capable of. And obviously winning Rollie Lane, huge accomplishment. And that's a shot in the arm, towards those state championships. But Kadence Beck from Highland, she ended up getting outstanding wrestler of the tournament. And rightfully so. And you talk about an emotional roller coaster for that kid. She's a great kid. She lost her father in October. In an auto accident. And so, that empty space in her corner has been kind of the blaring obvious mark, throughout this part of the wrestling season. And, her uncle's been stepping in, and family friends and, other people in the wrestling community have really been there for her. And there's a picture of her dad in her corner. But to show up at Rollie Lane and to win in the fashion that she did, was pretty outstanding. I mean, from the girls aspect of that, and from any wrestler. I mean, the tournament that she had and not giving up a point, I believe, until her third match of the tournament, was just, pretty ridiculous. And she won every match, I believe, by pin too. So a dominant performance by Kadence Beck, but also Alyssa Randalls, she was dominant in her own right. Skyla did a great job for Moscow as well. There was, the girls wrestling in the state of Idaho, man, is if you haven't had a chance to watch it, I think that girls sports sometimes, especially in a contact sport, might get like this, I don't want to say stigma around it, or like it kind of gets like the side eye. They're super competitive and they get after it. And there's some high quality wrestling that takes place. And these girls, I mean, they mix it up and they step toe to toe. And there's some hammers in the state of Idaho that are getting national notoriety, and rightfully so.
Yeah. We have, of course, our standalone wrestling podcast we do at IdahoSports.com, the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast. That will be live Wednesday night. By the time you're listening to this, the show will probably have already happened, but we do it live every Tuesday or Wednesday at 8 p.m. Mountain, 7 p.m. Pacific. It's really fun. We get a dialogue going with all the wrestling fans. And over the past couple of weeks, Skylar Beck, Cadence's sister, avid watcher of the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast, and she's always hopping in with comments and questions. And so it's been really fun interacting with Skylar. And
yeah,
it's still something that's really raw for all of them. And it's something that's raw for everybody that knew Andrew. And I know Skylar has said a couple of times on the Mat Chat Prepcast, like, hey, thank you for continuing to, talk about him and continue the legacy. And she, it brings tears to her eyes. Whenever we talk about it. So, I mean,
and we talked about it back in October that there really wouldn't be girls wrestling in the state of Idaho at this level without Andrew. And, I'll stand by that as long as there's girls wrestling in this state. Like he was kind of the torchbearer for all of this and had a huge amount to do with it. And so I think as far as a legacy being built and being carried forth, the girls in the state of Idaho have definitely done an amazing job kind of taking the mantle and running with that.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal. So it was great to see Kadence come down there and get a win at Rollie Lane, and Alyssa Randalls from Coeur d'Alene as well, and everybody who did well. On the boys' side, we did have not as much, right, as the girls, but on the boys' side, we still did have some pretty impressive individuals.
Yeah, I mean, Post Fall showed up taking second place as a team. I said that they were going to challenge Meridian, this year, and they may not get the numbers, but they're going to get the placers at state. They may not get, 24 kids in, but they're going to certainly take a good sized chunk, but they're all going to place. I think they're all going to finish in the top 6 at state. Ryder Seguin from Post Falls, obviously winning at 98 pounds was huge. Gentry Smith had a great tournament as well. Trevor Miller took second for himself, but I think the one that stood out for me was Jose Laguna from Post Falls was, I mean, he have yourself a day, winning the title in that weight class too. I mean, that's a brutal meat grinder of a weight class. And he won the 170 pounder over accordingly from Highland. And that was just a huge match from him to get that championship. And Ryder, that 98 pounds he's been a hammer in his own right. But Jose, I think coming in, I don't think he was the favorite necessarily to win that weight class, but the way and the manner he did and the grind that it took to do that, man, yeah, exciting team to watch. And I'm looking forward to seeing Post Falls continue to grow throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch them develop. And so we'll dive more into it, more detailed on the Idaho Mat Chat prep.
Yeah. And Lewiston going over to that gut check. I mean, they showed up pretty well too. They got a title out of Robert Storm. Winning that tournament of heavyweight was huge, and a good showing from that crew. Like, that's a tough tournament in its own right too. So North Idaho they showed up pretty well this weekend for what they were able to do and where they were at.
Yes, very impressive. And again, wrestling fans, the Idaho Mat Chat Prepcast, it is a podcast each week, about a half an hour, dedicated just to wrestling. You can, of course, catch it live. If you can't catch it live, you can always go back and watch the replay of it or subscribe to it wherever you subscribe to your podcasts. All right, let's get into hoops action. Let's start with, we're recording this on Wednesday, January 11th. And we had two signature monumental career achievements happen last night, Tuesday the 10th. One in boys basketball, one in girls basketball. I think I'll start with girls hoops just because this was, to me, both are incredible, but this was maybe the more incredible of the two. Madi Symons becomes Coeur d'Alene's all-time leader in career points.
Yeah, and that's saying something. You look at the history of that program and the quality of athletes that have come out of Coeur d'Alene High School. And I mean, not just in the last 15, 20 years, but I mean, you go back 30, 40, 50 years and the people they've had come through, that's a heck of an accomplishment from her. And obviously she's got her letter of intent. She's going to go play at the University of Wyoming. And they got themselves a good one. I mean, she's a great kid too, not just a good basketball player. And she leads her team well and is a very, involved young woman that, does a lot of good for the school that she's in too. And the fact that she's now the all-time points leader at Coeur d'Alene High School, that's a huge accomplishment, and hats off to Madi. That's awesome.
Yeah. And by the way, it was a pretty epic game last night as well. Coeur d'Alene goes on the road to Timberlake. This game, I don't know if this was originally on the schedule or not. The first schedule I got for Timberlake had them playing Orofino.
Yeah.
But anyways, this was a fun
That's a good get. I think Timberlake getting that game. I mean, and Timberlake in their own right is a really good program, as we'll see later in this prepcast. But getting that game on the schedule is something I think folks really wanted to see, and it was a great test for both teams. Absolutely, it was a great game.
Yes, it was Timberlake's first loss of the year. They came in undefeated. Coeur d'Alene won 52-48. So we're talking pretty tight, 4-point game. Madi Symons scores 14 points in that game for Coeur d'Alene, and she now has 1,294 career points. That is, and climbing.
And counting. Yeah, and counting. You could put an asterisk on that one because it's not done yet. Yeah.
Right. She broke the previous record by 1 point, according to the Coeur d'Alene Press. 1,293 was the previous record by Kama Griffiths. She played in the mid-2000s from 05 to 09. So way to go. That's so awesome. And what a great game. Coeur d'Alene and Timberlake, both really excellent teams. And we'll talk more about that as we get to your North Idaho 9, of course. Okay, boys basketball. The signature thing that happened last night, Kendrick boys get a win over Orofino. First loss of the season for the Maniacs, by the way. So we said it's incredible how these two stories parallel. Kendrick beats Orofino in boys basketball. Jagger Hewett crosses 1,000 points for his career for Kendrick. And so you had both Coeur d'Alene girls and Kendrick boys having a player achieve a significant career milestone in terms of total points, and in the process, knocking off a previously undefeated team in both instances as well.
Yeah, and Jagger, showing up in that game, and Coach Silflo is doing such a great job with that lineup, and we know that they've got athletes and they've got dudes. And for a 1A D2 team, you look at them too in their lineup. They're long. They're a long team. I mean, they're all 6'2", 6'3". They've got some good size on the team, but they can shoot the ball really well. They defend really well. Orfino was kind of the unknown going into it. I kind of said it last week and took a little bit of heat from Maniac fans, probably saying like, I don't know. We don't know what they are yet, and they're not tested. But yeah, they came into that game and it was a competitive ball game too. I mean, it was a good game too. And, Kendrick came away with a win. And not just going up one classification, but going up two and getting that victory was big for that Tigers team, especially against a team that's, challenging to win the CIL this year in an expanded conference. So that's a great win for Coach Silflo's team and that Tigers team to kind of take down the stretch because they've got a tough lineup ahead of them as well.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch both of these teams as they continue to compete, right? Orfino and Kendrick. The other notable boys basketball game I wanted to touch on from the last week was also kind of an inter-classification battle. It was Bonners Ferry from 3A taking on St. Mary's from 2A. The Badgers get the win, but it was a tight win. But
a back and forth game, went down to the last 25 seconds of the game. The Badgers hit their free throws going away to clinch the victory and got a steal late to kind of seal that win. And that was a great win for that program. And obviously they've got one loss under their belt now too, but a great win for that Bonners Ferry team against a scrappy, it's a really good St. Mary's program too. That's a team that's got some pedigree to them. So picking up that victory, hats off to both teams, I think, for a tight ball game and an entertaining game. The fans definitely got what they wanted out of that one. But neither of those teams are going away anytime soon throughout the end of this year, for sure.
Definitely. So, yeah, Kendrick beats Orfino 48-40. I'm not doing a good job of hosting here. Usually I say what the score is. Kendrick beat Orfino 48-40. And then that Bonners Ferry St. Mary's game from last week ended up being a 74-68 win for Bonners Ferry, and they won it basically by making their free throws down the stretch. So the Badgers keep rolling, and St. Mary's, we've seen this the past couple of years where they've challenged themselves schedule-wise, and it makes them battle-tested and ready when they get to state. It's easy to forget St. Mary's has been to the last two championship games in 2A. They won it 2 years ago. They lost last year to Melba in a game that was close until, probably the very end of the third quarter. And then Melba kind of pulled away. But, St. Mary's, I think, is as capable as anybody of getting back to that 2A championship. So,
and you look at who they played. Good grief. You got Lakeside that you played during Christmas break. They, got the revenge game in that one, and they come back and play Bonners Ferry. That St. Mary's schedule is no joke. They're playing some really good programs. So, to see what that team can do coming down the stretch, Grayson Sands and his swan song as a senior, and then what he can do coming out and seeing if they can get a big win or, a couple big wins and get themselves back into the state tournament would be huge for that Lumberjack team.
Yeah, that would be phenomenal. So, all right, well, let's get into your North Idaho 9. This is the weekly rankings. All rankings and opinions on the property of Ryan Scaggs and Ryan Scaggs alone.
That's right. It's the rankings nobody asks for, but somehow they still get every year.
You can hit him up on social media, Twitter account @NIdaho Game Night.
Yes.
For any complaints.
For any complaints and hate mail, you can send it to my inbox. Yeah, go ahead.
Questions, comments, or concerns. Okay.
Right.
Let's start. Where do you want to start? Boys or girls?
Let's go girls.
Okay. And again, we'll do the cool thing where we have the teams. If you're watching the video of this on YouTube, everybody go to YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see the teams kind of scroll across the bottom like the little ticker. But for audio-only listeners, Ryan will also go over each of the 9 teams. So
there's some movement in this week's rankings too.
Big movement, including right at the very top, Ryan.
Yeah. So number 1, we got Lake City. 2, I got Post Falls jump Coeur d'Alene this week. I saw the Trojans team against Lewiston. If you haven't realized, that team's really flipping good. So I'm a believer in that Trojans team right now. even though, Coeur d'Alene playing a tough game against Timberlake. So I got Coeur d'Alene 3, Timberlake 4. There's not – that Timberlake team's really, really good too. So is Coeur d'Alene, so is Lake City. All of these teams are really good. You look at Lapwai at 5. Timberlake, sorry you jumped them, but that's a good spot, I think, for fairness as far as quality of schedule and quality of program. Lapwai, no slouch, obviously. Sandpoint at 6, they're still holding their own. I said that Bulldogs team was going to win the 4A bid to state, and I still stand on that one. I still think they can make some noise. I really do think they get a first day win, depending on how seeding shakes out. Their ranking's going to be pretty high just because of playing all those 5A schools, and they've made some road trips. So if Sandpoint's able to keep it up and run the stretch and pick up maybe a sneak of victory, if they got the season sweep from Lewiston, certainly helps. And if they can sweep their league schedule and district tournament, that's going to help their chances at state as far as keeping a higher ranking. 7, Deary. I'm a believer in that Mustangs team. Obviously they placed last year at state. They brought back everybody. Those 8th graders got a year older. They're freshmen now, and they're contributing and scoring at a high level. Kennedy Kirk, that's on that team. She's the truth too. That team can score. They can defend. They're long, and I look to them. Kendrick's going to be good too, but getting another bid to state. But I really think Deary could challenge for a state championship this year. I really do. They're that good of a team, and they play so selfless, and it's kind of like next man up, whoever wants to score on any given night. 8, I've got Prairie. 9, I've got Kendrick. So that wraps out my top 9 for the North Idaho 9 for girls.
Yeah, I will say we're doing our IdahoSports.com daily top 25 girls and boys basketball rankings. We debuted it last week, and I thought, okay, here's the top 25, 1 through 25. And everybody hated it. Oh, my gosh.
Nobody understood what you were doing either, though.
No, and I don't know if people still do, and maybe this will be a huge.
Yeah, they saw Lewiston at number 1 in boys basketball, like, what the crap?
People, tell me about it. A lot of people had a conniption fit about that. Let me tell you, this is like, think of it as the stock market. This is a daily assessment of the stock market. And guess what? Lewiston played on Monday.
Yeah, they played a neutral site game.
Nobody,
a decent team. Yeah,
nobody. Hardly anybody played on Monday. So, did Lewiston get a bump by winning on Monday? Yes. Yep. By the time Lake City plays on Thursday, guess what? Lake City's probably going to jump Lewiston. Like, everybody called it.
If they don't, then I got problems with you, but that's okay.
Join the firing line, everybody.
Yeah. Pitchforks and torches.
Yes. At its core, though, the rankings part, now I divide up by classification, because a power ranking of 100 at 2A is not the same as a power ranking of 100 at 5A. They don't calibrate the same. So it's still the top 25 teams. It's just broken up by classification. And so, for example, on the boys' side, Lewiston right now is the only team that's ranked in our top 25. That'll change as we get further.
We had some big games last night down in southern Idaho. So, yeah.
Yes, but this is the big reason I wanted to do it. I wanted to highlight a team or a game every weekday. And when else am I going to be able to spotlight the Lewiston boys, who probably aren't getting as much acclaim as they should?
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, that's the biggest reason why I wanted to do this, was to highlight, hey, you may not know, but Lewiston kind of quietly playing pretty well.
Yeah, 2 losses on the year, and they're both the quality opponents.
Yeah, let's see why. Well, they're playing really exceptional defense. They're allowing less than 40 points per game. How many people knew that? And I'm hoping all of the fans, especially in the Treasure Valley fans, understand that. Okay, and now they can go, wow, Lewiston's got a really good defense.
Dude, their defense is legit. I had that game Friday night, that Post Falls Lewiston game, that their football game outscored the basketball game, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah,
the halftime score of 27-3. I mean, come on, like.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but that's.
But no, that defense was impressive. Brandon Fury and I were like trying to put our fingers, like, is this an ugly game or is it just really good defense? And then as you get later in the game, you realize it's like, no, this defense is legit. Like it is absolutely suffocating. There was no cuts to the basket. They had everything, like no backdoor cuts. The perimeter defense was amazing. Like that team just buys in. Like Brooks Malm has his team bought in to play defense.
It's been really impressive to watch. So anyways, in a roundabout way, I was going to say on Monday, I highlighted the Lewiston boys and the Deary girls. Deary very quietly 9-0. And again, the incredible thing to me about Deary is they didn't lose a single player from last year's team, right? And they were the team that they had to play Kendrick in the first round at state, with the max prep seedings. Deary and Kendrick get slotted against one another. Deary wins that game. I was stunned when that happened last year. I'll admit, because all year I had said Kendrick's my favorite to win state based upon they got the championship 2 years ago and bring back almost everybody. And I was stunned when Deary knocked off Kendrick last year. And Deary ends up taking third place, and Kendrick battles back in their consolation part. But Deary's very good. And they bring everybody back, 9 players, 3 of which were varsity players as 8th graders a year ago. So they're all freshmen already with a year of varsity under their belt. So that to me is impressive. Kennedy Kirk inside is very difficult to handle. All the Woods, Araya, Trinity, and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the third one, the freshman. But all of the Woods.
There's probably only like 8 of them in town. So, I mean, just start throwing. Yeah, but no,
but yes, Deary, very impressive to me. And we will find out, right? They play Kendrick on Thursday, and then they play again at the very end of the regular season. Those are going to be 2 really fun girls basketball games to watch. All right, that's enough of me talking about my failed experiment of the daily power rankings. Let's go to your boys, North Idaho 9. And again, some movement, but really it's in the middle where the movement happened this week.
Yeah, so let's see, let's open my notes. Boys, I mean, obviously the top 2 teams stay the same. I think top 3 stay the same. Lake City.
If you get stuck, just look at the bottom of the screen. Can you see the text?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay. You're putting it on the screen for me, and I'm not even looking. Yeah, Lake City at 1. Obviously, they ain't going anywhere. Lapway 2. All they do is win. And they manhandled Cami last night in their game. And that was a top 5 matchup again. I mean, how many ranked teams do they have to play in consecutive weeks and absolutely take care of business in order to prove that they're one of the more dominant teams in the state of Idaho at any classification? 3 Coeur d'Alene. That Vikings team, like I said, I've liked them a lot. They're very unselfish. Lewiston at 4. Like I talked about, and I just went on my analysis about the Bengals, and I kind of stand on that. That defense wins championships. They're going to give people fits because of their size and their length. They may not score as much because of the other team's defense, but they're certainly going to be in every ball game because they defend so well. 5 Bonners Ferry. 6 Lakeside. I still like the Knights. I really do. You had an off night from Vander Brown, and you still lose to Lapway by not very much. I mean, you were in that ball game until the last 45 seconds. That I still like that Lakeside team a whole lot. I don't know if the voters statewide necessarily echo that agreement, but they beat Timberlake, I believe, last night. So that's another big win going up 2 classifications. 7 Kendrick getting a big win over Orfino, who I have at 8. And then Cami at 9, rounding out that top 9. That's a tough lineup of teams. You look at every one of those programs that's in there. Every one of them I can see playing at state. Realistically, obviously, you can only get 2 from the north at 5A. So one of those 3 or 4 teams are going to bow out. But that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's I don't really have any problems with anything that you've ranked here, and I don't know. We'll see how this changes. Is Lewiston? I'm really fascinated to see Lewiston and Coeur d'Alene match.
Yep, I think that's gonna be the test. That really is gonna be. We're gonna know a lot when Lewiston and Coeur d'Alene play each other because we haven't seen it yet, and that's gonna tell us a whole lot.
Yeah, and then Lapway at 2, and you've got Cami at 9. They, of course, played last night, and Lapway won by double digits. I still maintain that Cami is the team that's best built. If anybody's going to do it, and this was another thing on Monday as part of the daily rankings. I posed the question, will Lapway ever lose again? Kind of tongue in cheek, but this year, I don't know. I just don't know. But if there is one team that could do it, I really do think it's Cami with the way that now. It only works this year because there's no shot clock, because they can slow it down, take the air out of the ball, and limit the possessions.
I'm still standing by Lakeside. Lakeside went without Vander Brown, and he had 3 points or 5 points in that game. He only played 10 minutes in the entire ball game. I still look at Lakeside as if they get a rematch against Lapwai State. That's the other team that can give them fits. If Vander Brown can heat up, that's the difference. 11-point game. That's your difference maker in my opinion. But I don't know. I don't think Camia's got the guard play to match what Lapwai can do. Like, they can shoot the perimeter so stinking well. Terrell Ellenwood Jones can go off for 30 any given night. That dude is a microwave.
Yes, the microwave. I heard you during the broadcast a couple of times say that. So Lapwai has won 48 games in a row. And based upon what I can see, it's the longest winning streak in the nation, according to Max Preps. Now, I got some pushback from some fans on this, but I'll tell you where I came to this conclusion. At the end of last season, Max Preps published an article. Here are the longest active winning streaks heading into the 2022-23 season. And at the time, Lapwai was 4th on the list, behind Our Lady of the Sacred Heart from Pennsylvania, Weddington of North Carolina, and Bristol Central from Bristol, Connecticut. Bristol, Connecticut, by the way, is where ESPN headquarters are located. Fun facts.
I wonder who's on that team. Probably some of those guys that are talking heads that have kids that play. So okay.
Yeah, Scott Van Pelt's kid is.
Well, he lives in DC, but
yeah, that's true.
I mean, like Jalen Rose or somebody like that. They've got a couple kids on that team or something like that. Maybe I don't know.
Definitely could be. So, So at the time, those were the 3 schools that were ahead of Lapwai. Well, I went, how are they doing this year? Our Lady of the Sacred Heart is 10-2, which means, hey, they lost somewhere, right? Weddington High from North Carolina, if I can get it open. Too many tabs. My computer is, oh no. Did I freeze up?
You're going to dump the podcast by trying to research
Oh, gosh.
North Carolina basketball.
one tab at a time. Okay. So Weddington High this year is 9-6. So they've taken, quite a few losses. And then Bristol Central is the worst of the bunch. They're 3-5.
Yeah.
So to me, the 3 schools that were ahead of Lapwai at the end of last year all have lost this year. Yeah. So to me,
unless there's teams that were behind them that have played more games than Lapwai has this year, and that's the only way I see that taking place. They would get jumped just based on.
This is why I should have had a think tank with you on this, because now
a little research. But yeah, no, and regardless, like, to put together a 48-game win streak, you talk about the pursuit of perfection and doing it day in and day out. And I know that Coach Eastman would echo that. It's like, we had him on the Prepcast this summer. Was it they look at it one day at a time. They just win their next game. It's next, that next moment, that next play, win it. And, if you start looking too grand and too big picture, I think it gets really easy to overlook those opponents and you get caught. And I think that's what happened. Look at that Genesee game 2 years ago now that they played and they slipped up against Genesee. That's exactly what happened. They came off of a big win over St. Mary's and they got caught the next game. And, so that I think is kind of how things shake out, is that if you start looking ahead too much, you tend to get caught. And I look at this, the one thing about this Lapwai team that I saw, they're humble. They really are. They're very matter of fact. It's like, go to work. Like, we have business to do. And there's a mission at hand, and they know their instructions, and they carry them out. And, Coach Eastman does a great job with that crew to just keep them grounded. And they have fun doing it, though. They beat the snot out of their opponents, and they have a good time doing it. That definitely helps. Yeah,
so I went and looked at all the teams that were right behind them. They've all won too. So to me, it's confirmed. Lapwai, longest streak in the nation. And
that's awesome that it's a North Idaho school that's in the area like that. And it's a good group of kids too. Like, that really is fun to watch. And that community, I heard last night at that game, it was standing room only between the Camia and Lapwai game. And I got to see that gym firsthand, a week ago for that game against Lakeside. And that place full is a handful. That, I don't care what classification you are, you're not getting a crowd like that. 5A, 4A, 3A, 2A, anywhere. That place goes bananas for high school basketball. I equated it to Texas football. You see a town buy into an athletic program, that Lapwai basketball would equate to football, high school football in Texas.
Yes. So it's been really impressive to watch. And again, I just don't know if a team beats them this year, based upon what's left on their schedule. They're going to be like, man, you just gave us the kiss of death. Like you guys.
No, I don't think so, because I think that they are just too disciplined to really probably even listen to us. So I know that Jeremiah does. Like Jeremiah Wynot Case's dad will listen to us. But I don't know if the kids listen to us too much. I think that they just kind of shut things off and they go out and like throw on a dunk contest and have fun. Like that's what they do, and they're going to treat it business at hand.
Yeah. So anyways, Lapway, keep up the good work. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah.
When
it does end, it's cool. I mean, like to hang your hat. That, you know, that's an accomplishment that's really, really hard to replicate. But until that happens, like we got to celebrate it week in and week out and keep giving them attaboys and dap them up and watch them, you know, go for a three-peat for state championship.
Yeah. And of course, Lapway has the Idaho record for most consecutive wins in the late 80s, early 90s. You know, they won 80s. I think it was 87 in a row. Yeah. I kind of did some rough math on that. You know, Lapway would have to – we're talking about Lapway getting close to that mark at the end of next season, the 23-24. So, I mean, there's a long way to go for that. But we'll enjoy the ride, you know, as long as it continues, right? No,
and that's cool. And, you know, the role players that have shown up this year after the departure of like Titus Year out, and that Elias has come out and played out of his mind. I just look at, you know, that team, those kids just, they love playing together. Like you can't keep them out of the gym. And yeah, I want to keep like beating the dead horse as far as like the drum for the Wildcats, but man, that team is fun to watch, and they're well coached and they're a good group of kids. They really are.
One last note on this. My favorite guy, I think, is Chris Bonney, because he does all the little things that don't show up in the stat book, and he would run through a brick wall if he told him to. I love watching him play, because he never gets the headlines or the big stats, but man, he is so important to what they do.
And we were trying to find a good adjective to describe him. And it was kind of like we called him like a boat anchor. Like he's just a boat anchor in the middle of the lane that like he's just in the way, but he holds the ship in place. And he's just a big body that just you want to have down low that does the dirty work. Yeah. And kind of what we saw to AJ Ellenwood. And I think he does it with maybe a little bit more ferociousness this year, which is something that I think it's fun. Like you're not going to see him go off for 20 points, but you certainly might see him go off for, 10 hard rebounds and a couple assists, and the kid gets after it. Yeah.
Really fun to watch. So anyways, that'll do it for this edition of the North Idaho Prepcast. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy the competition wherever you're headed. Ryan, what do we got on tap for North Idaho game night this week?
We don't, unless we do something on Saturday, but I haven't gotten the final word for that yet. But otherwise, we don't have a game this week. I did get a phone call, so I got to call North Idaho College back because I might be doing something for them. I don't know. They're trying to bring me in as a ringer, possibly. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know. They were asking for an announcer, but
I heard, and I'm not as plugged in to the college stuff in North Idaho. I heard that North Idaho College for men's basketball, are they ranked number 1 in the country?
Yeah, I believe so. Like they're 1 or 2. They're really stinking good. So yeah, no, that they go off. So we'll see. I don't know. That phone call came in while we were on the air. So I'll have to call them back as soon as we're done here and we'll find out. But yeah, so far North Idaho game night, I don't think we've got anything until next week. So yeah.
Maybe they want you to be the new president of the college.
Dude, that's a rabbit hole I don't think anybody on this Prepcast wants to go down right now.
We don't have time for that.
Yeah. With that being said, no. If we get something in the works for Saturday, there's something we're working on that would be pretty special if we can get it on, but I don't know if that's going to work out schedule wise or not. But that would be cool. So if we do, we'll let you know on Twitter and Facebooks and Instagrams and all that fun stuff. But
yes.
It would be a first in North Idaho. Let's just put it that way.
For sure. All right. Well, before I get us in any more trouble, I will.
I am not running for president of North Idaho College. I rescind my name from the hat. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Thanks for tuning into the North Idaho Prepcast, everybody. For time, thanks. I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.